Welcome to the summer edition of the Sprint to Success with Design Thinking podcast.
How do you navigate change? It's a question we think about often, and one that today's world expects us to be comfortable with. The challenge, however, is where do you begin, and how do you develop the mindset and skill set to be successful? Welcome, everyone, to the Sprint to Success with Design Thinking podcast. I'm your host, Saba Kidwai. Join me each week as I share the stories and strategies from the world's leading researchers and practitioners about why they believe the answer lies in practicing design thinking.
One, what are we doing for today's learners, right? How are we giving them those knowledge, those skills, those mindsets? I always say we know why we need to change, right? We get it. The World Economic Forum has drilled it within us. We hear the skills of the future. We read books like, Eric Brynjolfsson's and Andrew McAfee's Second Machine Age. So we get why. We understand the world is changing. I think we also know what. I think we also know, assessment needs to change. I think we know that our grading system is not equitable. I think we know competency-based learning and design thinking and project-based practices are way more advantageous for learners. I think where we really struggle is how. We get the why. We even know what it is we need to do. We are lost when it comes to how do I take that step from going from those traditional practices. It's like one of the pieces of, it's a really big part of the research that I highlight in there is Tayek and Tobin's The Grammar of School. They do like a study over the past century saying look, none of what we're talking about today is new. People have been engaging in education reform to change and redesign these practices for the past 100 years. So why have we not been successful? And basically what they bring it down to is they say there is a grammar in schools, the same way we have, grammar in English. And what that is these really embedded practices like our grading system and how we divide students into, age level grades, how we silo content. And until we don't challenge those foundational practices, it will always feel like one more thing. In kind of looking at that, one of the things is, okay, well, how do we use design thinking to challenge these traditional practices? Because we know these are challenging conversations, these are uncomfortable conversations, but design thinking gives us that step-by-step framework. So if we're going to have a meeting and we're going to convene a group to talk about how we might redesign our schedule, we don't have to sit there in the beginning at a loss of, oh my God, okay, where do we even begin? Or even worse, go down a rabbit hole of people's opinions that then ultimately lead to no action because we just spent the whole hour just discussing things. So that's one of my big visions, is that we're able to sort of use the frameworks that are evidence-based. People have been using these. They get us results. They are used in industries across the globe by organizations that are looking to change their systems and their practices or design new products. So how do we use these frameworks to have those conversations so that they are manageable and they are actionable and we can begin to actually feel the results of our work? So that's really one side of it, using it to be able to challenge that traditional grammar of school and design what works for you. And that's a really important part of the research as well, is that we're not here to say everyone should be doing what Design 39 did. Design 39 did what they did because that was what their needs were. The needs of their community, the needs of their students, their parents, their educators, their leaders, you name it. It was them understanding their needs and designing something in response to that. But what I do hope people take away from the research are the practices that they used to actually create what they did. And so really coming together with your community to say, okay, starting with that empathy piece, what do our learners need? And that answer is going to look different for each and every single school. And there's a real beauty in that flexibility and getting to design something that's going to work for your community and for your students. So that's sort of one angle of it. The other angle of it is how are we preparing our kids? Not just using these design thinking practices to change our organizations, but also to be able to give our students those design thinking practices right from the beginning so that they don't have to grow up and unlearn all this stuff and then go back and relearn. It's been fascinating. I've been spending a lot of time lately in a Clubhouse, and it's just fascinating to me to listen to how many adults struggle with mindset. And really, the mindset struggle really is confidence. People don't think they're good enough at anything. you just at some point have to wonder how much of that has to do with our grading system. If you've spent your entire life being told, you're a number, you're not good at this, you're not good at that, you're only good at this, you're only good at that. And that's what's kind of being drilled into you. And we know that our grading system doesn't take into account emotional intelligence. It doesn't take into account our creativity. It doesn't take into account all of those human sort of skills and elements that are a part of us. I think it's the number one struggle adults have is mindset. And you just have to wonder if from a young age, we instill within our children, you can create anything. You can solve any problem that you see. What would a society like that look like where every single person had that type of creative confidence?
It's your turn to join the conversation by sharing what you enjoyed or what questions you still have. In a world where time and attention are so valuable, thank you for choosing to listen and for being a part of our Sprint to Success with Design Thinking community.